Short sales are different from REOs. That's actually a great question because a lot of people confuse the two. So a bank will never reach out to you with a short sale. Okay. A short sale is the seller's behind, but it's before the bank actually forecloses on it.
What's going on, guys? In this episode of the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast, we have Bob Vieira, and he dives into a whole sort of like sphere of things that you probably don't know a ton about, or if you do, you've been in real estate for a long time, and that is the world of short selling and pre-foreclosure real estate. Mm-hmm. This is something that tons of people made insane amounts of money on in like 2010 after the market had tanked and everyone was underwater. But now, with how the market had gone up in 2021 and 2020, most people, they have equity. So short sales don't really make sense anymore. And with all the COVID regulations, there weren't a lot of pre-foreclosures. And, you know, either way, he stuck to his niche and he's been carving out some deals. And one of the things that was very fascinating was he dove into all the different sort of areas and types of properties. He is starting to see more short sales and pre-foreclosures, right? And, you know, I don't know what you think, Dan. In my opinion, I think that this might be one of the niches that is going to become extremely, extremely common over the next couple of years.
I do. I think this is great timing, honestly, but I don't really care because I've been waiting to say, you know what else he dove into?
What?
His 14,000 gallons of water in his basement that flooded when he told his horror story.
I know, that's right.
I've just been waiting for that joke.
I know.
Come on.
I know. Yeah, right. I know. Yeah, he has a great horror story at the end of the show that you definitely want to hear too. Probably one of the most extreme situations I've ever heard of. Yeah, anyway, Bob is a wealth of knowledge here. If you're unfamiliar with short sales and the power that exists there, you should definitely listen to this show. He goes into, you know, how to put them together, what the process looks like, how to market to them, you know, what it has to look like with a seller, everything in between. And the knowledge here is like, I would say definitely one of the most well-rounded experts that I've heard talk in this space in a very
Absolutely. He's an expert.
So anyways, guys, enjoy the show. Reach out to Bobby as well. Super nice guy, very, very knowledgeable, and more than happy to help you out. He also has a great program where he can work with you to do short sales, and he pays out like 20% of the profit on the deal, which is pretty awesome for something that you basically make a passive situation with them. So reach out to him there, and he'll definitely be able to provide some great value. Besides that, guys, please share this with anyone that you know that is interested in real estate or, you know, just wants to make some money. Even if they don't like real estate, they just want to be rich. Like, this is a great way to sort of start understanding the true value that can come in this industry. So you should share it with everyone that you know. You should also go to collectingkeyspodcast.com/free to get your free guide, start generating off-market leads. Then you can be buying your own short sales. And besides that, everybody, we appreciate you all and enjoy this show with Bobby Vieira.
Enjoy.
All right. We are here today with Bob Vieira from Universal Short Sales. And in the year 2023, you don't hear quite as much about short sales and pre-foreclosures and all those sort of situations as you used to, since most homeowners have way too much equity thanks to the run-up over the past couple of years. But Bob, you have built a niche business for yourself, still focusing on that. So super excited to have you on the show, hear about your background, everything you're doing with Universal Short Sales, and what does that even mean for people that are maybe just getting indoctrinated to this business still?
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me. Very, very excited to be here. So what a short sale is in a nutshell from a bird's eye view, it's when there's two things are happening with the homeowner. Number one, they're behind on their mortgage payments with the bank. Okay, so there's mortgage delinquency. So they're forced to sell their property. It's the best option for them is to sell. Now, they can't sell the traditional way, or they can't sell to guys like you with a quick cash offer because they have negative equity. Okay, so they're behind on their payments and they're upside down on their mortgage. All that means in layman's terms is the as-is value of the property is less than what they owe the bank on their mortgage. When this happens, they could apply for a short sale. If and when the short sale is approved, their bank essentially lets them sell the property for less than what they owe on the mortgage. So, you know, quick example, just to paint a picture. Let's say somebody owes 300 grand on their mortgage. Okay, their mortgage balance is 300. Property's worth, let's say, 250. In a short sale situation, the bank is going to let them sell for the 250 that the property is worth. And then the deficiency, okay, so that $50,000, 50 grand that they would typically have to show up to closing and pay, that gets forgiven. So they don't show up with anything. They're able to just get out from under the mortgage, move on, and it does not get recorded as a foreclosure.
Perfect. That makes sense. Great example.
That's great. Example of everything there. So, I guess first off, how did you get into short sales? Especially because I'm not sure how long you've been investing for, but like I said at the beginning, most people right now are not even going to be in that situation. Like it'd have to be a pretty extreme circumstance for someone to be underwater on their property right now. So what's your background with real estate? How'd you get into the short sale sort of like focus with your business? Let's dive into all that.
Yeah. So I jumped in the business straight out of college in 2015. And I actually didn't jump in on the investing side. I started off as a real estate agent, okay, not even investing. And just like any agent, I was kind of like running around like a chicken with my head cut off. I had no clue what I was doing. I was just trying to, get any type of business to survive. And then as luck would have it, I just stumbled upon a bunch of short sales. This is in the Philadelphia, PA market. So I had no clue, what the hell a short sale was, let alone how to actually do one. But I ended up getting so many that I just learned it through trial and error. Long story short, I became like a local market expert, you could say, in short sales. And people just started sending me these deals. So what I realized after doing so many was, I have a system in place to actually complete these things. And they're very painful. So I was solving a big problem. And then B, I needed a niche. I didn't have a niche at the time. I was just a generalist. I was a, real estate agent. I was doing a couple wholesale deals here and there. I was kind of just, I wasn't known for anything. Like my business hadn't really taken off. So in 2019, I launched Universal Short Sales, my company now, where we do short sale deals nationwide. And we solved that problem just on a bigger scale. And I was able to niche it down. So that's actually how I got into the short sale space.
Yeah. Interesting. That's awesome. I love that. And, finding the niche is such an underrated thing. Even if someone did want to be a realtor, right? Like we look at some of the realtor groups here, the ones that are most successful, they always have like sort of like a shtick. Like one of the biggest groups here, he has a good buddy of ours and we always kind of make fun of him. But his whole team is like blonde, bubbly girls in their 20s. And they market exclusively to like people that, want like the traditional, like American dream sort of lifestyle. Yeah. Right. And it's funny because if you meet him, he's like, not like that at all, but he's like, hey, that's what sells houses. So that's what I'm going to push.
He's smart. That's his niche. That's his niche. I love it.
Yeah. Plus he gets to hang around with a bunch of blonde chicks all day. So it works out pretty good.
So, Bob, I got a question for you on this. Not to pivot too quickly from bubbly blondes, but you said you're an agent, and this was your first deal. Like, so were you representing somebody in the transaction, or were you actually ended up being a buyer right out the gate? Like, what did that look like?
So, at first, I wasn't a buyer. I wasn't doing any investing. I was just on like the listing agent side. And my first ever short sale was a triplex. It was a distressed property. It was, these two investors, awesome guys, really, really smart guys. They made a bunch of money in the insurance space, jumped into real estate, and, they just were like struggling with the rehab side of things. And they were underwater on the property. And like I said, I had no clue I was like, short sale. I don't know. I was just telling them I knew what I was doing, but really I was like Googling it on my phone after. I didn't know.
Yeah, right.
But that's how I started on the listing agent side.
So did the sellers, or I guess the investors, reach out to you, or was it a bank that reached out to you? I'm just curious of like, how does somebody come across this, to list it?
Yeah. Short sales are different from REOs. That's actually a great question because a lot of people confuse the two. So a bank will never reach out to you with a short sale. Okay. A short sale is the seller's behind, but it's before the bank actually forecloses on it. So, a lender will never reach out. You have to go out and get it through off-market, deals, just like you do a typical distressed seller. So it's a B2C transaction.
Yeah. Interesting. So when, I guess, like, how does one even start a short sale deal with somebody? I mean, you said it's sort of driven by the seller. So let's say you get this lead, you know, we're wholesalers, right? So we do a lot of lead generation, and more often than not, the person doesn't even know how much of a pit they've got themselves into.
Situation. Yeah.
So is like a big part of your role when you're doing these deals, like education as much as negotiation with these people? Because I mean, you have to rely on them a lot to be able to have this conversation with the lender.
That's another great question. So it's actually 100% education, 0% negotiation with the seller. So what's way, way different between a short sale seller and your typical motivated seller is a short sale seller is not motivated by money, because in a short sale, they're not making any profit. There's no profit. Now there's relocation assistance, stuff like that, but you know, that's a whole different topic. When it comes to profit from the sale, remember, the bank is agreeing to take less money. Okay, so the bank is losing money, so the seller is not allowed to share in any of those proceeds. So you're not negotiating a price with the homeowner. Most of the time, the cool thing about short sales are you could get awesome deals because the homeowner can literally care less what they're selling for. They just want out from under the mortgage. That's their primary motivation. So there's no price negotiation back and forth. You're just literally educating them on what a short sale is. And then when they decide it's a good fit, you get the ball rolling.
Makes sense. It seems like it's more of a defensive position for the seller where you said that they're not caring about any of the sale price because they're just really trying to stop any losses.
100%. That's all it is. And if you ever, like, for anybody listening to this, if you think you have a good short sale lead, meaning they're behind on mortgage and they're underwater, the third qualifying factor is the most important one. Don't be a dummy like I used to be and get all excited and say, oh, yes, I have a good short sale lead. Nope. You have to have the conversation up front with the homeowner and double check that they are not motivated by money. If they are, the deal will never work. You'll waste so much time, energy, and resources like I used to do in the beginning.
I mean, I think that's a great rule from the start of any sort of direct to seller transaction, right? Is being upfront about what they need to get out of it. And that's somewhere that so many people, we do this, talk about this a lot with our coaching and different sort of things. So many people, they go into the seller conversation about what they want when really it's a people serving business, direct to seller real estate with distressed people, right? It is all about what they want and how you can provide that to them with the collateral essentially being the real estate that you're going to buy. And, you know, it takes a lot of trial and error, I think, where people generally learn that themselves. So when they're having that conversation with the bank, I guess, what does it look like on your point? So for that example, let's say they owe 300, and, you know, they're able to sell it to you for 250. Is it like you go to them like, hey, I'd really like to buy it for 250. Can you go talk to the bank and like see if they'd accept that? Or like, is it they go to the bank and they get basically a bottom line that the bank will accept? What's kind of the order of operations of this whole thing?
So we have it broken down into a science. Okay, I have a full-time staff that works on this. It's a step-by-step system. So a lot of people use the phrase short sale negotiation, but I hate to use the term negotiation because there's actually zero negotiation going on in a short sale. That's a big myth. If it were as easy for me, Mike, to just call up the bank and verbally negotiate a price, I probably wouldn't be in business because it'd be so easy, everyone would do it. The short sale process, we have it broken down into 12 steps. So you have to hit every step of the process, and the vast majority of it is document collection, submitting it into the lender, and following up. That's the major thing of it. And the bank, remember too, the bank isn't in the real estate business. They're in the mortgage business. So most of the time, like, you know, let's say you have a mortgage out with Wells Fargo, they have no clue what your property is worth. They're not in that business. They hire a third-party appraiser to tell them what the property's worth. So, you know, going back to that example, let's say I need the property for 250. The bank will accept 250 if that's what the appraisal comes back at. If the appraisal comes back at 275, they're going to want 275. They're just strictly going off the appraisal. That's it.
Wow.
They don't care what I say or what I try to negotiate with them.
Gotcha. Huh.
Okay, so that leads me to a lot of questions. So so you're upside down in the house. The idea being is the house might be less than they owe on it. If they owe, I'm trying to think of where this would kind of not be good for you as an investor.
Why I see the biggest red flags are, I mean, we've dealt with this a lot in like flips and rentals, things like that. What happens when you have your appraiser that doesn't fully understand like the cost to do renovations and those sort of things?
And that's what I was getting at, kind of like, what if that was less than, what if the appraised value was too high for you as an investor to buy it, but it was still below the mortgage value?
Yeah, that happens all the time. That's an unfortunate part of the business.
Okay.
Now, there's different ways to deal with that. You could do price disputes. We do something called waiting out the appraisal. So, going back to the example I gave, let's say we need it for 250, it comes back at 275. If it's not worth it to do a price dispute, so every appraisal that a bank does goes on file, and it has an expiration date. So let's say the expiration date is 4 months. What we'll do, one of our strategies, is to wait out that 275 value, wait for the 4 months for it to expire. Now, there's other components involved. I'm giving you like a bird's eye view, but we'll wait for the 4 months for it to expire, and then we'll resubmit our offer, and then we'll get a new interior appraisal done.
Gotcha. And so in that 4 months, are you at risk of the property going into foreclosure at that point because they're probably not paying their mortgage?
Yep. That was the other components I was referring to. Absolutely. That's a big one. So, I mean, it's just all part of playing the game. Sometimes we have to get a lawyer involved for the seller to try to postpone it. There's other strategies we could do, but that is absolutely a part of it. Yep.
So that's really interesting. So I guess with these sort of properties, I'm just trying to think about how banks work and how the appraisal process typically works. You probably almost need them to be like retail ready-ish in terms of like condition for this to normally make sense. So I can't imagine you're normally going to be getting appraisals that come in at, that allow for a $60,000, $70,000 rehab.
So it's actually the opposite. Short sales are weird. So typically when a bank sends an appraiser out, you want the highest appraisal price possible because you want the lowest to get the best deal, obviously, and you want to get it approved. The best types of short sales to get the best discounted deals on are the properties that are the most physically distressed and that literally show the worst. So let's say we have a property at 123 Main Street and it literally needs a full gut rehab. A property like that, I'm going to probably come in at 50 cents on the dollar and try to get it at a really good discount. Because the thing is, you could tell a better story to the appraiser. So it's our job as the buyer and as the short sale processing company, whatever our role is, to provide supporting documents to the appraiser. So we never let an appraiser go in blindfolded and just trust their judgment. We're giving them construction estimates, itemized, breaking down all the costs. We're giving them as-is comps. And then a lot of times what I like to do is I'll even spend the money and get a full inspection report and give them an inspection report and break it down for them and say, hey, look, I'm coming in at $150 and this is why.
So do they, I'm thinking about this from an investment standpoint because I'm going to give you my hypothetical example and I want you to tell me where the margins are built in. Hypothetical example, say it is a property that's distressed and needs a lot of renovations and the appraisal comes in at 150 and you all agree like, this actually is probably only 150. If we sold on MLS right now, it would only get 150. Of that, we're going to have $75,000 in renovation costs. And you've showed that to them. You all agree. Yep. Okay. So really all in, it's $225,000. So now is the margin saying that once you do $75,000 of renovation, it's actually worth $300, or is it still you're having to show the appraiser that it's worth $225 with $75,000 of renovations?
Okay, so in that example, so I understand, what's the price you're going to come in at in that example?
150.
So he's basically asking, like, how do you work in the margin piece on this?
Yeah,
because why are they not basically saying just current value minus repairs is where you should be at?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. So the way you work in the margin is by, again, telling the story to the appraiser. So like you have to come, you don't want to break it down like that. You know, I would say you don't want to come in and say, hey, look, this is the ARV minus repair cost. They don't, you know, it's probably going to confuse them, I'd say.
That's
you
fair.
know what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like if you're like talking to an investor, you almost want to like dumb it down a little bit. Just say, hey, listen, we're coming in at 150. This is all the work it needs. You want an itemized repair list, an inspection report, and you want to focus on the repairs, because a lot of appraisers and BPO agents, you know, they're just going based off comps.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you need it at, you know, the 150 and you can only find comps for 200. You have to explain to the BPO agent or appraiser, hey, you're only going to find comps for 200. But this property needs 50K of work. So, you know, we need you to deduct the 50. That's how we ended up at 150.
Yeah. And then the repairs to get there.
What I would say is though, Dan, I'm actually glad you brought that up, because I have a lot of, so like we're almost 100% referral based at this point. So we work with tons and tons of JV partners who are wholesalers. And wholesalers, rightfully so, are always talking about ARV. The biggest piece of advice when you're running numbers on a short sale, yeah, of course you want to know your ARV, but really you're focused on the as-is value of the property, more so of ARV in the beginning. You want to focus on what is it worth as is.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. No, that's interesting. So you mean you don't hear a lot about short sales nowadays, just because the run up in equity has been so massive through 2020, 2021.
Yeah.
But I mean, I imagine it's going to start coming around, especially as we were getting towards the end of, you know, the big run where you had these people that were getting these VA loans, right, where they were 0% down, or these FHA loans where they're 3.5% down, and they're also paying $40,000 over asking price, right? Like some of those have started to turn over.
Bingo.
Is that kind of where you're seeing short sales right now, or is there like another situation that's pretty common?
We're actually seeing a ton already for several reasons. So first off, when you look at distressed situations like short sales, there's pockets of the country that have way more compared to others. And what you just brought up, we're already starting to see a ton. Last month alone, 3 of the contracts we got last month were from what you just described. People who purchased within the last 3 years, super recent, and they overpaid to such an extent. Now, mind you, these aren't investors. A lot of these are retail buyers, obviously, you know, people that are living in. And they got in the crazy bidding wars, overpaid by 40, 50, 60 plus K. And, you know, something happened where they lost their job, whatever the case is, they have to sell and they're way underwater. So that is, Mike, you're 1,000% right. That is happening in real time. But another thing I want people to remember, we have a consumer society. America is a very heavy consumer society. Whenever people have equity in their homes, they get super excited, and I promise you, they will find ways to lose equity in their house. I don't know any other way to say it. Like, just to give you an example. Okay, these past 3 years were crazy with equity appreciation, low interest rates equity. How many people, think about this, and for anybody listening, how many people do you know personally, or can you think of, that always wanted that brand new car or that brand new boat to take on the lake this summer? And all of a sudden, their property's appreciating. They're sitting there with like $100,000 in equity. They're like, oh my God. So they take that equity, get a home equity line of credit or whatever, and they cash out that equity and use it to buy, you know, consumer goods, not investments, consumer goods. So there's a record amount of people that have equity, but they lose it because they take it out and they use it for other things. So, you know, not to go on a rant about that, but I mean, a lot of that is happening right now. So even in hot markets, people are losing equity.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what my neighbor did across the street.
Are you serious?
There you go.
Yeah, he told me he cashed out, refied his house, and then all of a sudden he showed up with this $150,000 boat.
Oh, yeah. You're right. So
people
do that because they have no patience. And I do forget that probably 7 out of 10 people I talk to, like that are non-investors in the last 10 years, or 10 years in the last couple of years, have been doing that, and they go and finance a 30-year loan against their boat or their car or their kitchen or whatever, because they did exactly what you just said. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's another good one, Dan. The home renovations. Tons of people are doing
Oh
that.
yeah. I mean, it's so easy to get like a HELOC and stuff like that too. Which isn't like a full refinance, but you can abuse that and get yourself into trouble. And I don't think people realize that those docs that you're signing, and you're getting a home equity line of credit, they still say that they can take your house if you don't pay for that. And people just are like, I'll figure it out. So I guess like what pockets of the country are you seeing that more? You don't have to say like specifically, but is it like a cultural thing? Is it a, like a local demographic? Are you talking about like higher growth areas? Talking about like more poor areas?
Yeah. That's a good question. As far as demographic wise, good question. We don't really track that. I'd say like, we see a lot in like middle to low income areas for sure. But, there's one that we did recently in Washington State that was like a higher end property. So really it varies. But as far as the pockets geographically, lots in upstate New York for whatever reason. New York in general, tons of short sales. New Jersey's a really big short sale market. Lots of people underwater. Where I live right now, Florida is leading the country in gross active pre-foreclosures. Wow. There's over 30,000 people right now. And like, this is just beginning. There's over 30,000 people in pre-foreclosure right now in Florida. And keep this in mind. Florida's a perfect example. Let me talk about Florida quick. Florida is super hot. Almost every market is super hot in Florida with equity. Yeah. But what happens when you get so deep into pre-foreclosure is some people are 9, 12 plus months into pre-foreclosure. Every month you don't pay the bank, penalties, interest, and fees, lawyer fees, everything, tack on your principal balance. It compounds over time. And guess what? Even though it's a hot market, you are underwater because you're losing equity at a record rate. So, that's just another example that wherever there's pre-foreclosures, you will find short sales 100%.
Yeah. Okay. That is interesting. I guess where I always assume I'm going to see stuff like that is areas where there's low financial education, and there's going to be people that suddenly have access to more capital than they ever should have had in their entire life. We see this a lot in North Idaho, where there's properties that people bought on the market for like 150 grand 5 years ago and are now worth 500. And they'll do exactly what you talked about before. They'll go refinance and just buy a bunch of guns and like dumb stuff. Or they're kind of in like the keeping up with the Joneses neighborhoods, right? So like Seattle, San Francisco, where you have people that can't actually afford it, but their desire to like live the lifestyle that they want there, or they want to like be doing what their friends are doing that are more well off, those sort of things. And so they overextend. And so I wasn't surprised to hear you say the Northeast, because that's kind of like what I would expect from like those, people that I traditionally view from that. I'm saying that they have like, it's kind of like a keep it up with the Joneses sort of idiots. I'm not calling them idiots, right? I'm saying they really care about like their how they're viewed by
their home and their summer homes and stuff like that.
Well, exactly, right? I mean, we see the same thing with Seattle people, same thing with like people from LA. A lot of like the big cities that really matter.
Superficial. Yeah. Just like he's like, the Joneses. My neighbor has a nice car. I have to get one. Yeah, 100%. We see so much.
Yeah, that and probably the boom bust markets like we see in Florida, right? Yeah, I would assume Arizona would be similar, Las Vegas would be similar.
Yeah, but the big thing is too, though, like what I said about pre-foreclosures, because in judicial foreclosure states. So what a judicial foreclosure state means is, in order for the bank to foreclose on someone, they have to actually take them to court. They have to sue them, take them through a long, drawn out court process. So what that does, like in states like New York, Florida, New Jersey, it allows people to stay in pre-foreclosure for months, sometimes years. So going back to what I said, the deeper into pre-foreclosure, the more the interest and fees compound. And that's really what I see the most putting people underwater. Really, it's that's the big factor.
Interesting. So that I've heard that before, these non-judicial states, when it comes to or judicial states coming, like New York coming into foreclosure, like it's kind of a pain in the ass from a note holder standpoint, because it could be years. But on the flip side, it
It's a
sounds like,
huge
is that an
thing.
advantage for somebody looking for short sales because you know you have this like band of clientele that are sitting there in pre-foreclosure for 12 months racking up these fees?
100%. And really, yeah. So, I mean, first off, there's a lot more people that are going to end up in a short sale. Not that I want people to,
Right.
but there's more people that need our service in those states, 100%. And then also it gives us more time. Judicial states, because the foreclosure process takes so much time. If a seller comes to me needing help, needing a way out through a short sale, I have more time to help them in those states.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, there's so many little nuances, and I mean, especially with what you're doing because you're getting involved in the mortgage business so heavily. I'm sure there's so many little local laws and things like that you have to figure out. So, I guess with your business, universal short sales, so you do it nationwide. Are there any states that you just won't touch? Like, what does it take for someone to work with you? Who exactly are you looking to work with your business?
Yeah. We do them in all 50 states. Like we just touched on, there's just more, short sale opportunities in some states. But yeah, we're doing them in so many states right now. I mean, so many, like a variety of states. So we'll do them anywhere. Most of our business is referrals. So if you're a wholesaler, especially if your primary exit strategy is, wholesaling and assigning, those are our favorite partners because those are dead leads. Like a true short sale lead, if you're looking to assign property, that's a dead lead. There's nothing you could do with it because short sales are unassignable, right? Because there's no equity. So instead of throwing that away, we have a program where you submit it to us and we do everything from start to finish. Short sales literally take months. We do everything. And then you get 20% of our net profit for everyone you send us for literally taking a dead lead and, having us deal with it.
Nice. So if I'm a wholesaler and I come across a lead that's in pre-foreclosure, you're saying like best option is to send it to you guys and work that lead if there's no equity in the property.
Yep. Only if there's no equity. Like I tell everyone, we're just a tool in your tool belt. If there's equity, do your thing, make your money. We're just here if you need us, if there's no equity in it.
Oh, that's great. It's always nice to have that tool in your toolkit too, because you do. Another type of lead we come across is just a straight up retail lead where wholesalers, if you don't have a license or you don't have a good referral network, you can't capitalize on listing a property for somebody. And there's a lot of money in your CRM for listings. And now this is just another piece when you come across a no equity pre-foreclosure. Now you have another tool.
Exactly. I think they're going to become 100%. More and more common here as we continue to see what happens over the next little bit. Awesome, Bob. Well, really good stuff, man. I love how you broke everything down too. You're obviously a proficient expert because you nailed taking the complex topic and explaining it so a 5-year-old can understand. So Dan can major props to you on that. Yeah. So Dan can understand it. That, guys. Awesome. We're going to dive into our end of show questions here. These are the questions that we ask every guest who comes on the show. I'm excited for the first one because I'm sure you have a couple. But the first question is, what is the craziest real estate investing story that you have? This can be a big win, a big loss, a crazy tenant, crazy transaction, whatever you have in there.
We'll go with the loss, right? Yep. The wins are boring. So I did a deal once. We bought, it was myself and a partner. We bought an 8-unit mixed-use property to hold. It was so exciting on paper. Cash flow was amazing. Cash on cash return was great. We didn't own the property for 2 months, even maybe, until I get a call. This is 2 days before Christmas. I get a call from one of the tenants, and I'm like, what the hell could this be? So I answer it. And the second I pick up the phone, I could hear in the background, it sounds like she's standing next to a waterfall.
Oh, no.
I'm like, where is this lady? She's like, Bob, you got to get here. She's yelling over the water. Like it sounds so loud. She's like, you got to get down here. I said, what's going on? She said, a pipe burst in the basement. And it turned out, like I said, it was like she was standing next to a waterfall. So we get down to the property. We see what's going on. There is 14,000, I'm not exaggerating this, 14,000 gallons of water they measured.
Wow.
Yeah. The entire basement was submerged. Everything was, like I said, we just bought this property.
Oh my
And
gosh.
to make matters worse, so we had to pump everything out. You can imagine how much that cost.
Yeah.
And the insurance company doesn't insurance. So now we're in a lawsuit with the insurance company.
Yeah.
We have a basement that's completely submerged. We just bought the property. We're in a lawsuit. This was on paper one of the best deals I've ever done. It ended up being, one of the absolute worst. I call it my university. Let's put it that way with the lesson.
Jeez.
So,
Yeah.
14,000. It's funny how much water because you had to literally pay to pump it out.
Oh yeah, I will never
Oh,
forget.
my God.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Because that's how you have to pay the company to come and pump it out. So, they had to measure it.
Oh man.
14,000. Like I couldn't wrap my head around it.
That's a lot. Like we've complained about basements flooding or houses flooding. That's like legit like a holding tank.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's a nightmare. I remember looking at pictures. You couldn't walk in the basement. Like the water was actually like it was a storm door. I don't know what you guys we call them storm doors, like the cellar door that you open up.
Mm-hmm.
Like you literally could not see the stairs.
Oh my goodness.
That's so crazy.
I'm actually starting to sweat. Can we change subject? I'm starting to sweat thinking about that.
Yeah. What so did you end up selling that property then after that?
Yeah, but it was we were in a 2-year lawsuit with the insurance company because they didn't cover it. We ended up they ended up settling it, but like that sucks. Who wants to go through it?
I know.
Yeah. But we sold it. Yes.
Yeah. So well, yeah, that's
not at a big profit either.
You're right. You're in real estate long enough, you'll learn that insurance is incredibly expensive and for some reason doesn't do anything.
Doesn't do much for you.
I don't know why. So we had a situation not quite like that, but we had an oil furnace leak that completely destroyed a fully newly renovated house. Yeah. And the insurance company basically refused to cover most of the cost with it. Even though they knew it was there.
Dang near a 12-month battle for us too. That was a long one.
Yeah.
How do you remediate that, an oil leak?
Well, that was one of the big problems. Apparently nobody knows how to do it. And then finally we were able to get our in-house contractor in there. He's like, oh yeah, we just freaking clean it up and you paint it with this and we're done. It's like, okay, let's do it. And then that's all it took. It was literally very little work actually.
Wow. Yeah. I would have thought the opposite. I would have figured there's a specialist that has to come out and.
Well, they did do an environmental survey and all that, and that passed and stuff. But again, I think the people that they wanted to use, the insurance company, which they weren't supposed to be referring, wanted to make it a bigger deal than it was, and it really wasn't. And then we just got in a big back and forth battle.
Yeah. So
God.
Anyways, but no, that's a good one, Bob. That's probably the worst flood story I've heard that isn't a natural disaster where a neighborhood gets taken out.
Thanks. I'm happy to set that record on your podcast.
Yeah. That's a good one. All right.
That Bob guy, he didn't bring much value, but his horror story was the best.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would say that. You brought a lot of value so far. All right. Second question. What is the number one tip you would give to either a new investor looking to get started or a small time investor looking to take their business to the next level?
My number one would be to pick a niche, but we kind of already covered that. So what I'll say is you have to be able to weather the storm, and that's in any business. I think the problem with social media these days, I really think it stems from that, is it paints the picture of not just real estate, but just being an entrepreneur. It paints it in a rosy light, which is absolutely insane, which I'm sure you guys will realize. Nobody posts their losses. Nobody posts their failures. It's all just guys standing next to Lamborghinis and that type of shit. So I think they portray it like that, but really entrepreneurship and what I'm learning right now, because I'm still really young in the game, I don't know a lot, but what I know is consistency is the key, and you have to be able to just weather the storm. It's just going to be failure after failure, and the key is just to keep on going. And that's the reality. I think a lot of people they don't realize that that's what it actually is. It's just putting out fires and just plugging forward and dealing with just a bunch of BS.
Boy,
so
that is great.
You have to be mentally prepared to do that, I'd say.
Yeah.
So true.
Well, there you go. That's another way that I know you run a legit business, Bob, because all the heavy hitters that we have on here, they always say the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what we've always said too. And then it's when you get the person that comes on, it's you just got to work harder than everyone else. I'm bro, you haven't worked a day in your life.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody works hard.
Totally. Yep. Yeah, the guy at the grocery store, stocking shelves at 3 a.m., he's working harder than Jeff Bezos, but Jeff Bezos is more patient.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, thinking what Jeff Bezos could do, he could he could deal with stress. That's the one thing I'm learning. Like the real successful people that I personally know, the one trait that they all share is they could all deal with stress unbelievably, because that's what business is. Like the more stress you could handle, because like you said, you know, the guy stocking shelves or whatever, which is like all due respect, but like that's not stressful job. They're not taking on stress. So
yeah,
so true.
Yeah, I mean, and that's huge, and that can be trained as well, which I think a lot of people don't always realize, and it comes with conditioning.
It does.
You know, even like I remember back when we first started, and we would have little issues come up with properties, and it would be like, oh God, it would be such a big deal. It'd keep me up at night. And then like that oil spill situation we talked about, I remember when that happened because it was an Airbnb. It was at 9:30 at night. The guest shows up, and I just see the Airbnb message comes in. He goes, "Your whole house smells like propane." No. And I was like, well, I guess we're gonna deal with that tomorrow. Went to bed and slept like a baby. Woke up the next morning and then we figured it out.
You're just like, you know what? It is.
I didn't know that was an Airbnb.
Yeah.
Oh God, that makes it worse, man.
Oh, dude, it was such a freaking.
That's somebody's vacation ruined.
I know. I know. Right. Mike doesn't care about other people's vacations, is what he's saying.
So I'm saying it all. Hey, we put him up in a room and then
we
no,
took
I'm not saying because you slept. I'm just saying like that's a
No, you're right.
That just makes it worse for you guys to deal with.
You just get. I mean, you get paid for the problems you solve, kind of things, right? And so it's like at some point in time, you figure out the small, easy problems aren't that hard to solve, and they just figure it out later. We'll take care of that later. That's not the immediate fire. What's more important is me sleeping right now.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love that. And it's the truth. I love that.
Yeah. So, awesome. All right. Last question, Bob. Where can people find you, follow you, and reach out to you?
Yeah. If you're an investor out there, join my Facebook group. It is, I don't know if you guys are going to put it, I think it's called Universal Short Sales, Short Sale Success for Wholesalers or something. I think that's the way it ends. But yeah, Google Universal Short Sales, and then you'll see the Facebook group. I'm constantly doing pre-foreclosure webinars, posting strategies, how to get these, mortgage linked deals. I have guests on constantly. I just had a guy that's done over 80 wholesale deals just with REO properties alone. That was an awesome webinar. So definitely get in that group, apply to be in that group. And then PM me on Facebook. I'm always happy to network, hop on a call. Yeah, just find my personal Facebook, Bobby Vieira. Shoot me a message and we'll just set up a call. I'd love to chat with anybody and, just network.
Yeah. Sweet. Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thanks, Bob. And you should definitely reach out to him at all those different areas, guys. Cause it's funny. I connected with Bob. I don't even know how we initially connected years ago. And we've talked just a couple of times before then, but you've been persistent enough and produced enough good content that, I followed you for years kind of passively, and you're the first person I thought of when I wanted to do a short sale and pre-foreclosure show. So, you're definitely consistent. You put out good stuff. I'll give you some credit there. So guys, if you have any interest in any of these topics, you should definitely give Bob a follow. So anything else from either of you guys before we close this thing up?
Yep.
Yeah. I just want to compliment you guys, and I appreciate what you said. And this is honest to God. This is an awesome, you guys are natural. Like I know this is a newer podcast. You guys are natural. It flows very well. It's conversational. It's not choppy. So you guys are going to kill. I know you're getting a bunch of views already, but you guys are going to kill it.
Yeah, awesome. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. Appreciate that. Yeah. So you guys heard him. Go and share this with your friends because we kick ass. You guys know it's true if you're also listening.
We kick ass.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for listening, everybody. Seriously, reach out to Bob. That is why he comes on these shows. He wants to engage with you. He wants to talk to you and help you out with your short sales. So don't be afraid to reach out to him at everywhere that he said. We will also put all of those links down in the show notes. On top of that, guys, please go and leave us a 5-star review. Go and post it on your social medias, do all those sort of things. And if you want to start finding some off-market deals and hopefully find some short sales of your own, go to collectingkeyspodcast.com/free, get your free 5-step guide to start generating off-market leads, and you'll be working in no time. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll talk to y'all next week.